Hello students, I welcome you all to the English class. Myself Sneha Pai from English Department, Soundarya Composite PU College. And today's topic is from the literature part, that is Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet is a tragic play written by William Shakespeare. It is about two young star-crossed lovers whose fate is to die at the end, but their death will reconcile their feudal families. Why do we call their families as a feudal families? We will learn in the next session, going on session. Before that, let us know more about William Shakespeare. He is a very famous playwright. He is famously known as England's national poet, and there is a title given to him. He is Bard of Avon. Okay, what is Bard of Avon? The title means Bard is a synonym of poet, and Avon is the place where he was born. So let us know when he was born. His period, as I have noted there, it is 1564. He was baptized in Holy Trinity Church in England in 1564. And after that, he earned for his living by performing several tasks. He was a playwright, he was an actor, he was also a managing partner of a big acting company. That is how his interest was more towards composing plays. And he has composed a lot of plays, many plays. For example, we have Romeo and Juliet, and we also have Othello, Hamlet, Macbeth, and a very comedy he has written. It is a comic play. It is a Midsummer's Night Dream, and many what you call the expressions of love and hatred is expressed more in his plays. He is famous for it. His plays are meant to give the essence of the nativity, because he writes about the plays in and around the Europe continent and the England country. Okay, he takes the plays like Verona, which is in Romeo and Juliet. He takes the plays Verona, then he takes the plays Venice in Merchant of Venice. So all the nativity essence is more in his play, so that the people, the audience would connect more to his play. And he was very famous by then during his era, 1564 and 1616. Let us have a look at a company. See, this is the company right now. It is named as Royal Shakespeare Company now. But earlier it was Kingsmen Company when he was working as a managing partner, an actor and a playwright for the company. So this is about William Shakespeare. He was also buried in the same church, Holy Trinity Church of Avon in 1660. So this is about our playwright, very famous playwright, William Shakespeare. Now moving on to the storyline. So this story starts with the introduction of a beautiful place named Verona. Okay, see, have a look at Verona, which is in Italy. It is the place in Italy right now too. So it is not an imaginary place, it is the place. That is what I said. Shakespeare, no, he gives the essence of nativity. He takes out the names of the places in and around, so that the reader or the audience would connect to it. And here is the beautiful place Verona. In this place there lived in that era two noble families. We call them noble families, we can call them feudal families, we can call them rival families. So I will give you the explanation why we were calling them and who were there. They were Capulets and Montagus. Capulets were from Juliet's side and Montagus were from Romeo's side. These were two noble families, rival families. They were sworn enemies. I called them feud. Feud means they were sworn enemies. They did not like each other. Their families had hatredness amongst them from ages together. Okay, and that is why we call them as rival families and feudal families. Why do we call them noble families? Because they were rich. Okay, they were next to king. See, early European continent and the countries, small provinces of European continent had monarchical ruling. You may be knowing what is monarchical ruling. Monarchical ruling is the successor of the king would be his own heir. That is, the son of the king only can take up the throne, right? That is a monarchical kind of ruling. And during this monarchical ruling, most of the European countries had the estates division followed, and the entire population was divided into three estates. First estate was the ruler, king himself, and the second estate was nobles, ministers, and the subordinates of royal families would come under these noble families. They enjoyed, see, they had the equivalent luxuries as the royal family, like king or the ruler would have. So they were noble families. And the last third estate were these peasants and artisans, merchants, and the laborers. All these would come under third estate. This is what the division under the monarchical ruling in the early European era. Okay, not now. I am talking about early European era when this story was written. And here the Capulets and Montagus, as I have told, they were rival families and they were feudal families, and they were also nobles. Now you know what is a noble family. They were rich, they were next to the ruler. Now let us have introduction about the characters of the play, or who would come under whose family. Now have a look at here, Montagus. Now you know that Romeo belonged to Montagus, right? He was a Montagu. And now under Montagu, we have Lord Montagu, father of Romeo, Lady Montagu, we have Romeo, prince himself, and his friends Benvolio and Mercutio. Okay, these are very important characters. They come here and there in the story. You don't have complete story in your verse. Okay, here we have only 2 verses of the entire play. The entire play is of 5 acts. Okay, and out of those 5 acts, we have just seen one scene from Act 1 and the other scene from Act 3. So it is a very huge play, and these people are the characters who come in the later part of the play. But still we need to know their identity, because the story when I start the story, I have to complete the story. So I'll be taking out these names. So I'm giving you the introduction about Benvolio and Mercutio, who were Romeo's friends. And please have a look at him, Friar Lawrence. He plays very important part in this play. He is from Montagus. And here in the Capulets family, this is Juliet's family, we have Lord Capulet, we have Lady Capulet, we have Juliet, princess herself, and Paris. Who's Paris? Paris is the person whom Lord Capulet and Lady Capulet wanted her daughter to be married to. Okay, so Juliet was about to get married to Paris. Fine, Juliet was about to get married to Paris actually. And next is Tybalt. Tybalt is Juliet's cousin. Okay, he is maternal cousin of Juliet, and nurse the caretaker. Of course, all the royal families, all the noble families were quite rich, so they had someone to take care of the prince or the heirs. So here the nurse was taking care of Juliet. Fine. Next, now let us know the background of the story. The background of the story says that Lord Capulet had hosted a party, a grand supper party. What is supper? The meal which you take in the evening is known as supper. That is, late evening, if you take some meal, it is considered to be supper. So he hosted a grand supper party, but it was only meant to the Capulet family, not to the Montagus. Okay, why not to the Montagus? Because you know that they were rivals, they were sworn enemies. They had that hatred amongst them from the age-old years. So now they were not allowed. Though Romeo was from a Montagu family, he enters the party. How does he enter the party? Because everyone would recognize him. So he finds simple way or a technique that he disguises himself. He dresses himself in a different way. He hides, he wears the mask to the ear. He disguises himself somehow and enters the party. Now the question is, why? What was the need that Romeo wanted to enter this party? I'll tell you. Romeo had fallen for Rosaline. Who's this Rosaline now? Because we are talking about Romeo and Juliet, and all of a sudden I'm taking a new name, Rosaline. So who's this Rosaline? Rosaline was niece of Lord Capulet, and she was also very pretty, and Romeo had fallen for her. Now he wanted to enter the Capulet family, and he wanted to go to Rosaline and express his proposal. Like he wanted to express his love to her. Only for that reason he enters into Capulet's party. He didn't even know, or he was not aware of Juliet at all. But as he enters the party and as he starts mingling into the crowd, see what happens. He first looks at the glorifying beauty on the dance floor. Okay, he just observes that beauty. Who is she? She wasn't Rosaline. She was someone else, and he gets to know that she is Juliet. Okay, and all of a sudden, at an instant, he falls in love with her beauty. Now he says, as he sees her beauty, he falls for her there instantly. Instantly means there is no second thought. He feels that she's the one for him. And after watching her glorifying beauty, he starts praising her. Look at the lines. See, these are the lines of that verse from Romeo. How does he express, or how is he praising her beauty? Okay, now he praises like this. Oh, she doth teach the torches to burn bright. It seems she hangs upon the cheek of night as a rich jewel in an Ethiop's ear, beauty too rich for use, for earth too dear. So shows a snowy dove trooping with crows, as yonder lady over her fellow shows. The measure's done, I'll watch her place of stand, and touching hers make blessed my rude hand. Did my heart love till now, forswear its sight, for I never saw the true beauty till this night. This is how he praises Juliet. Now let us know the meaning one by one. What does he mean by the first line? Oh, she doth teach the torches to burn bright. Look at the picture. Here, this is the ballroom or the dance floor where Romeo see Juliet, and once he feels that the torch which is burning so bright, which is enhancing the light and the beauty of that ballroom, is being taught by Juliet. What does that mean? That means Juliet is so beautiful, so glowing, and so fair and pretty that she herself has taught these torches to burn bright. That is how she is outstanding in that entire crowd in the ballroom. Okay, she is like a glowing light there amidst the people there. So that is what the first line meant, that oh, she doth teaches the torches to burn bright. She herself is teaching the torch to burn bright. Next line says, she hangs upon the cheek of night as a rich jewel in an Ethiop's ear. What does this mean is, look at this picture, have a look at this picture. These people, these women are Ethiopian women. See, Ethiopia is a place in Africa, okay, where tribal people live, and these women would wear a precious jewelry which enhances their beauty. They feel that their complexion is a bit dark, and when they wear such jewelry, this jewelry would enhance their beauty, and that is why they give importance to such jewelry. Okay, and Juliet is compared to that jewelry which is owned by them. She is like a jewel which is owned by Ethiopian woman, and he says that she hangs upon the cheek of night. That means She is like a twinkling or shining object which is surpassing the darkness of the night. Okay, that is how she is glowing. She is glowing in the night, surpassing the darkness. She is compared to, this is how the personification works. What is personification? See, poet and the writers use these figures of speech to give the vivid effect. Means to make their writing most impactful, they use such phrases. They all are phrases. Somewhere in some phrases they compare one object to other object, or in some places they compare, directly tell that she is the one or he is the one, where the comparison is not with as or something. And in some places a non-living object is given human quality or human touch. Here a non-living object, an earring which is worn by Ethiopian woman, that non-living object is given a human touch or human beauty, which is compared to Juliet. This is personification. See, knowing how Romeo is describing Juliet is also important. With that, even understanding the skill or the beauty of the verse is also very important. This is the verse. I said Romeo's verse. Verse is again a phrase which will be in a pattern. If you observe the verse, each line has a rhyming end. Every line, two lines had the rhyming end. That is how the poets try to beautify their writing. The playwrights try to beautify their writing. And Shakespeare's verse were very beautiful and it was worldwide accepted. And here, coming back to the beauty, see, the personification is the non-living object given a human touch. Here the earring is given a human touch. Whom is that earring compared to? Juliet, which is that shining beauty that she shines and enhances the beauty of the tribal woman. She is so rich, she is very rich for to be on the earth. That beauty is too much for the earth. He says that she is so beautiful that she cannot be on the earth. She is some angel, she is from somewhere, heaven, that beautiful she is, and she cannot be buried on this earth. So that beautiful she is. So she gives, Romeo gives a lot of importance to her beauty there. Next he says that she is like a snowy dove. Okay, she is like a snowy dove amongst the troop of crows. See, here says everyone else, all other people are like crows there, and only beauty who is surpassing everyone is the snowy dove. Now here you can observe a metaphor. What does the line say is, so shows a snowy dove trooping with crows as yonder lady over her fellow shows. That means directly she is being compared to a snowy dove. Okay, she is a snowy. He calls her a snowy dove amongst the troop of crows. This is metaphor, where you don't use like or as. You directly compare. You compare. You symbolize something and compare. Because she was very fair, glowing, and her beauty was so prominent there, she is compared to a snowy dove, and rest all others were looking very common, and he compares them to trooping crow. Here he says, as yonder lady. Yonder is somewhere over there, okay, bit far. He is just observing her beauty now. And he says, over there that lady is shining like a snowy dove amongst the troop of crows. Next he says, after the measure is done. Now what is measure is done? Measure is done means the dance is complete. They were dancing. That was a ballroom. That was a dance floor. So they all were enjoying the party with the music. So after this measure is done, what he wants to do is, what does he wants to do is, he wants to touch her hand and feel blessed. He feels that his hand is rude, and he wants to touch her hand and then feel her soft hand, and he wants to feel blessed. So he wants to go to her after the measure is done, after the dance is done, and he wants to see where she stands alone and go to her and then touch her hand and then feel blessed. Now after all this, after all the praise, he just thinks why he had come to the party. He had come to the party to see Rosaline, to propose her actually. But here, as he steps in, he is instantly, or what you say, as he sees this beauty, he forgets everything about Rosaline. Now Rosaline is history. Here you can see that in the last part he says that he had come here for Rosaline, but now he fell in love with Juliet. So now he feels that whatever the beauty he had seen and he had fallen for is not the true beauty. And he thinks that his eyes are liars. Okay, they lied to him. They lied to him that Rosaline was the beauty. But now he feels that Rosaline is history. He wants Juliet in his life. He wants to propose to Juliet. He wanted to go to her, touch her hand and feel blessed. Now he is recalling and he tells to himself, he thinks about the last line he says that he has never seen true beauty as Juliet till this night. So he says that these eyes are lying to me. Yes, here I have verse written. See, till now you had a visual impression of the verse. Now let us go line by line. How does Romeo expresses his praisal words towards Juliet? He says, "Oh, she doth teach the torches to burn bright." Doth again is does in archaic language. It seems she hangs upon the cheek of night. She is surpassing the darkness of the night. How is she surpassing? She is compared to a rich jewel in an Ethiop's ear. See here, she is as a, here simile works, and rich jewel. It is a non-living object which has been personified, now personification works. Now beauty too rich for use, for earth too dear. So he says that she is very expensive to be on earth. She is too pretty. Her prettiness, her beauty is not meant for earth, and we cannot bury her on this earth. Such beautiful beauty she is. Okay, so shows a snowy dove trooping with crows, as yonder lady over her fellow shows. Over her means amongst her fellow, that is all the people who are there. Amongst them, she is like a snowy dove. See, look at here, I have underlined them. There is no as, like or such. That means it is a metaphor where she is expressed as a snowy dove amongst the trooping crows. Who is expressed? This lady. Who is this lady? Who is this yonder lady? Yonder lady is Juliet. The lady, yonder means over there. Okay, over there a lady is standing. She is like a snowy dove amongst the troop of crows. The measure done, that is after the dance is done and their ballroom dance is finished. I will watch her place of stand. I will see where she is alone. She is standing, and touching hers, I will go and touch her hand, and as I touch her hand, I feel that I am blessed. What is blessed? His rude hand is blessed. Okay, and touching hers make blessed my rude hand. Did my heart love till now? See the question mark, he is questioning himself. He is confused because he had entered the party for Rosaline. So he is confused. For swear it sight means my eyes have lied to me, for I never saw true beauty till this night. I have never seen the true beauty till this night. Yeah, till now you have come across how Romeo describes Juliet's beauty. Now after that what happens is he would go to Juliet and then express his feelings. Where would he go? He won't go in the party itself. In the party what happens is Tybalt, Juliet's cousin, would find out that someone from Montague has entered and it is Romeo who has entered in disguise. So he would be chased out of the party. And then he wanders and he tries to find out where Juliet stays. Now he got the identification or who is she. He would get to know that she is Lord Capulet's daughter. And now what he does is he would go to Juliet's place where she lived. And this is the important scene which you come across in the internet and everywhere. If at all Romeo Juliet play has been showcased, this scene would be there. Which scene? Where Romeo and Juliet would express their love to each other in the balcony. That balcony scene you people would have seen everywhere. So this is what it is. There what happens is even Juliet would have feelings for Romeo because Romeo was very handsome personality. So now here Juliet also had some feelings for Romeo. Juliet would go back to the palace and express those things to nurse. She was the caretaker. So she would tell everything to nurse that he was so handsome, he was so pretty. I wanted to know who is he. Now nurse would tell her that, see, he is a Montague. He is not from Capulet family. And the bard chased him out. And when she gets to know all these things, yet no, she had fallen for him and she would, continue loving Romeo. This Romeo, no, he would be lingering there itself under the balcony. As he sees Juliet coming out and peeping through the balcony, he calls for her and there they both express their love to each other. This is where Romeo's expression of beauty and proposing her would end. In the next class, we will continue the story from there. Now let us have a quick recapitulation about what all we learned today. So today we learnt about Romeo and Juliet, written by William Shakespeare. His era is from 1564 to 1616. I told you it is an act, it is a play. The play was divided into 5 acts, and in the first act this Romeo's expression would be there, and it is again divided into scenes. Okay, this is one of the verse. What is verse? Verse is a form of writing with a proper pattern. There is a metrical rhythm. It is like a song. You must have heard it when I read it. See, there is a rhythm when you read it. And that rhythm, that metrical rhythm is composed by Shakespeare in the form of verse. Okay? Now you got to know what is verse. And when I read that, you must have come across new words. What are those? They all are from archaic language. What is archaic language? It is old-fashioned language. See, you had come across, oh, doth, she. Oh, what do you mean by doth? Doth means does. In simple English, in today's English, it is does. Earlier, it was doth. Though, we call though, it is you. Thee, it is again you. Okay, these are old form of English or old-fashioned English, or we can even call it as Shakespearean language, because most of his plays would have archaic language. Okay, and we also came across the figures of speech. I told you when I was explaining, Romeo uses personification. He personifies a non-living object to a living object. So one of the figures of speech it is. What is personification? Where a non-living object is given a human quality or a human touch, it is known as personification. In Romeo's line, he says that she is like a rich jewel in an Ethiopia. Rich jewel is a non-living object which he compares to Juliet. Here you can see my car is a real beauty. See, this is an example. Car is an object which is being personified. Human feeling or human emotions is being added to it. Next is simile. What is simile? Comparison using words like as. See there, he uses as a snowy dove. When he uses as a snowy dove, it means that he is using simile. And metaphor. Metaphor is comparison directly. He calls her a snowy dove amongst true. When there is no as, if it is directly called, then it is a metaphor. Here also comparison is there, but direct comparison. He calls all the fellow over there as crows. He don't compare there. He symbolizes that these all people over there in the crowd are like crows, and she is outstanding them like a snowy dove. And where there is no words such as like and as, that is metaphor. Where there is words such as like and as, it is simile. Both are the figure of speech which is based on the comparison. Only difference is when you have a simile there, you have comparison like the words like as, such, like. But in metaphor you don't use that. Here you have example. The world is your oyster. The world is directly compared to oyster. So that word is like your oyster. There is no like here, you can see. But in the similes example, you see, her hair is as golden as the sun. Her hair is blonde. She is blonde. Okay, she has golden hair. So that is expressed as golden as the sun. How sun is golden and shining, her hair is so. So this is a quick recap of everything. Now you know that Romeo had fallen for Juliet, and he had watched her place of stand where she lives. He had gone there, expressed his true love to Juliet. Meanwhile, Juliet also had similar feelings. Now Juliet also accepts his love because she also had affection or love or that infatuation towards Romeo. One point you should note, they are very young star-crossed lovers. That means they are in their teens, yet they had that passionate love for each other. Let us stop till here in this class. Next class we shall know what happens further on after they express their love to each other. What happens next will be in the next class.